Good morning, everyone. Let me ask you a question today. You have assets, and I don't mean of the financial kind. I mean of the spiritual kind, of the skills kind, of the tenacity kind, of how you like to play in the world. Those are some of your assets. But sometimes we talk ourselves out of our value. Do you ever talk yourself out of your value? Well, if you do, and you are trying to market yourself online, we got to talk about that. Because as Jen Sincero says, you're a badass, but quit hiding it. So if you are someone who is really not looking at your skills, your attitudes, your abilities, your mindset as an asset, and you are trying to market yourself online, then it's time we get some corrections going. They don't have to be big. All they are is an awareness. So I like to help people understand that they bring limits into their lives that are not appropriate. There is no limitation except that which you create in your own head. So you have a choice to be tenaciously creative and get out there and represent yourself as best as you can every day. Or you can be tenaciously defeatist and say, I can't do that. I can't do that. Oh, this won't work. This won't work. Well, who the heck told you to turn off your creativity? Who the heck told you you weren't a badass? Only you can do that. So the switch just has to be switched. Now, I know a lot of people want to dive deep into what got you there in the first place, and that has its value. That has its value, but at an appropriate time. So, what I like to do with people when they start into my study groups is I like to help them review their assets. And you have many, and I have a special exercise, and it's amazing how the bells start going off. Oh, 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 I know that. I can do that. Oh, I've done that before. Why don't I do it again? So sometimes life is just very, very simple, but we get into a trend, we get into a rut, we get into an expectation of ourselves, and we just don't know how to break over the dam. And it's actually very simple. It's not as bad as going to the dentist and getting a tooth pulled. It's just something where somebody else can help you either get your head out of the clouds and feet on the ground, or some of you, your feet are too stuck to the ground. I'm going to get your head into the clouds so that you can see your value. And then you can talk about your value to others. So let me give you a couple of quick examples of how I help people reframe. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with my study group, but I have a lot of experience in helping people with years ago, either leasing, finding an office space, managing their investments, revamping those investments, like coming through and doing construction remodels and then remarketing and reframing and naming and getting rents up. So I've been over the board when it comes to helping people understand where they've been stuck. So let's just take a couple of simple examples of stuck. I had one client once who kept coming back and coming back to lease, and he had a checklist of 10 different columns, and he'd been to 10 different apartment properties, and he hadn't moved in 10 years. So he was looking at all these things like refrigerators, dishwashers. And so finally, when he came back the second time, I said, Dan, and I remember this guy, and this is almost 45 years ago. But I said, Dan, do you mind if I look at your list? And he had everything technical down on his list, nothing emotional. So his feet were really in the ground and his heart wasn't involved with where he wanted to live. So I couldn't have worded this for you those many years ago, but my instinct said, help this man make a choice. I don't care if it's me that he's coming to buy from, but help this man make a choice because that is the hardest thing he can do in his life. So I just said, Dan, I said, what's important to you that you do not have on this list? And he looked at me like, what do you mean? It's like, Dan, how do you like to feel when you're in your house? because he's a thinker, right? He's not into feeling. How do you like to feel when you're in your house? Do you like a lot of light? Do you like a lot of shadow? Do you like to grow plants? Do you like to have your fresh food on the counter getting sunlight and ripening? What do you like, Dan? And I said, do you like to step out on your balcony and see certain kind of scenery? Because I had one specific studio apartment in mind for him that had a fountain in the lake right in front of it on the 3rd floor. So I found out that, yeah, he didn't need anybody walking over him. He'd probably stay 10 years when he got in there. And yeah, a balcony to sit down where he could be quiet and watch things and just see the world go around. He'd like that. So guess where I took him? To the one that had just that fountain view. And he, after I left that job, but I went back often and saw my friends. He was still there 10 years after I leased him that space and loved it then just as much as he did on day one. So what do you not know about yourself that you are not thinking about? That's why you use people like me, where we can kind of open up your tin can a little bit and have you go, oh, never thought about it that way. That's what I mean. If your feet are so glued to the ground that you've assumed so many things about yourself, it is time to get your head in the clouds and think about it differently. Now, when your head and your feet are working the same, oh my gosh, this is when you step into your badassery. So never ever value or undervalue what you have in a lopsided fashion. So I have an offer for you. I'm going to do a 30-day study group on attraction marketing for all of you who are out there trying to figure out what's the secret to posting. Is there something that I need to master? Well, my first step in the first week is to help you master you, your message, and your brand. And until you know that, until you can bring your value to the top of the table, your feet are going to stay stuck to the ground, or your wishful head's going to stay stuck in the clouds. So you just hit this link and you select joining my study group. This is a free offer. And then in 2 weeks, once I have you all tuned up, we're going to go through a challenge where you really, really, really get your badassery online and get yourself going where you need to go, so that both your clouds and your feet, your grounding and your imagination work together to create you a badass business online. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.